All right, so we're going to get started. Thank you guys so much for coming to our very last Wildcatalyst Seminar of the academic year. Woo! We had a great seminar series this year, and we're going, full speed ahead, planning for next year. So, look out in probably August for updates on what's coming next. If you are not on our mailing list and don't get our emails about the seminars, you can sign up on the piece of paper out on the name badge table, and we'll get you on our list so you can hear all about our news. So I'll start. My name is Chelsea DiGiuseppe. I'm the marketing manager for UNH Innovation. This year's seminar was launching research-based startups, and so our aim was to demystify the startup process and explore the opportunities, challenges, and pitfalls of launching a business by hearing about the real-life successes and failures straight from the innovators themselves. So the general topics were universal to all entrepreneurial-minded individuals, but there was an emphasis on starting a business around university research-born innovations. And we were really excited to explore that intersection of entrepreneurship and academia. I think it has been really, really interesting and rewarding to hear from their experiences. So before I introduce our speaker, I just wanted to say a big thank you to our generous sponsors this year. We had Hamilton Brooks Smith Reynolds. They're a Boston-based full-service intellectual property law firm. We had Finch & Maloney, a Manchester-based law firm that provides intellectual property counseling and services to technology companies. And we also had Saunders and Silverstein, and they're a law firm in Amesbury, Mass., and they provide services related to trademark, copyright, internet software, and entertainment law. So following today's presentation, we're going to have a fun networking time where you can share in more refreshments and beer. I just want to say, if you're not 21, please refrain from the alcohol. We really appreciate it. Once you're 21, come on and join us again. So our speaker today is Rana Gupta, and he's the CEO of Felsuma LLC. And he's just asked that he can introduce himself, so I am going to turn it right over to him.
Thank you. Let me ask you guys, we're talking about technology commercialization, and I understand you've had other speakers. So I'm curious to know, given what you've thought about, what you've learned, what you've heard, what would you say are the success factors associated with technology commercialization, successful technology commercialization? Ooh, you've learned a lot. Yes, sir.
Your people.
Meaning?
Basically, they're your core group of whatever, it's going to depend on the company, right? But basically, the people and the expertise they bring and offer resilience of those people.
People, expertise. All right, anybody else? Yes, sir.
Customers.
Good. Anybody else?
Luck often
Oh,
seem to be a part of this.
I like to think. I think it was Einstein who said, "If I have to be lucky or smart, I'd rather be lucky." I don't know if he said that, but I always say he said that. Yes.
Financial contingency plan. That's A through Z sub 200.
Yeah, one more.
They seem to access new markets that haven't been tapped before.
New markets. Okay. We'll come back to this. Thank you. That was great. That was very good. I'm going to move quickly today. I have a lot to tell you that I would like to tell you. So I'm going to move quickly. I always like to start probably where you don't expect, but I think it frames a discussion, at least for how I think about all of this. So first of all, she is called Big Mama. She resides in Duncan Irschick's lab at UMass. And we are geckos within Felsuma. All of our devices are modeled after her and her anatomy. In fact, the whole idea is this, just so we're clear. This, one of our first core products, is called a grip hook. So up it goes on the wall, it goes there, and then you say, go ahead, say it. I don't like it there.
I don't like it there.
Yeah, neither do I. I hate it there. I hate it there, in fact. So we'll put it over here, and off it goes. And then go ahead, say it.
I don't like it there.
Wonderful. You people are outstanding. So no residue there, no damage here, different substrate here. And we'll put it right by the door so it's convenient when I am ready to leave. That is the notion of Geckskin and what we're doing. We are gripping and peeling. So we can thank Big Mama for that. Okay, so first of all, let me say this whole commercialization thing is tough. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not sexy. It's tough. Now, up on the left is a logo of my consulting company called Quitic. So these slides are taken from Quitic, and I put them into my Felsuma slides. But so who am I very quickly? So I got an undergraduate degree. I then worked for ICF, it wasn't Kaiser in those days, in Washington, D.C., went back to school again, didn't know what to do, called my father, he said, go back to school. I said, good. So went back to school. Then I moved to New York City, worked for the city government. I like to think I served my country, if you ever work for the government. And then I was living in 14th Street in Manhattan, so I rode my bike and went and got an MBA. And then I moved up to Boston, we say Baston, and worked for Arthur D. Little in Bangalore and in Cambridge, so I was consulting. And then moved to China. After I came back from India and unpacked and had a baby, then moved to China. You got to unpack and have a baby first. Then moved to China, worked for Zeneca. There was no Astra at that point. And came back from there and really began what people like to say entrepreneurship, but I like to just say I'm a businessman. That's how I introduce myself. I am a businessman. Why? First of all, nobody uses that word anymore, so I have a corner on it. And that's what I am. So, but I did several things that I tried to make, I'll say, entrepreneurial efforts. This is dot-com boom, just to give you a sense of timing of these efforts. And then I joined an early stage venture fund in Kendall Square, early stage, multiple technologies. And then I had been teaching all along, but then I started teaching at BU about 06. I still teach there. And then I took over one of our portfolio companies, HistoRx, cancer diagnostics company, spin out of Yale. So I ran that for 6 years. We sold that. Yeah, that was a good day. And then I started Felsuma, which is this company, a materials company. So that's who I am. That's why I just say businessman. Okay, here's where I like to start, moving quickly. There are about 30 million companies in the United States. Now, about 23 million of them are sole proprietors. My little company, Quitic, would be a sole proprietorship. Therefore, if we want to say, well, how many people are probably looking for financing, it's about 23% that might be looking for financing, simply saying because they're not sole proprietors. 7 million companies. Now, there are about 400,000 companies formed per year. And if we extrapolate from the above percentage, we can say, well, how many of them are not sole proprietors, therefore perhaps potentially looking for money and financing in some capacity? Let's say 90 to 100,000, the number wavers year by year. Okay? Now, if we, the reason I like to do this is because this is the big picture, and I've never seen anybody else show these pictures, because then let's move over to venture capital where everybody's brain goes, which I despise, having been one. So I feel like I have license to say that. There are about 5,500 to 6,000 venture capital deals per year across the United States in their entirety. That's all. $30 billion across less than 6,000 deals. Now, how many of those, however, are first money in? Well, turns out about 34%, or 1976 deals per year, are getting first money in. If you're looking for financing, you're competing with about 2,000 deals that they're going to do across the entire country, all markets, everywhere. So we do the math and we say 1976 divided by 92,000, right? We're talking about 2%. So if we just look at the number of companies being formed, the number of deals, first money in, that VCs are going to do, it's about 2%. And that's when I always turn to my students and say, is that a game you really want to play? Is that a game you really want to play where you have a 2% probability of getting one of those jokers to fall for whatever the hell it is that you're selling? Because that's all it is separating a fool from his money, and let's be clear about that, having been, once again, one of those fools. So that's a very important place to start this whole technology thing. Now, a couple of other things. Let's also remember this. we VCs, we like to kill at least half of our young by design. So while you're celebrating, yay, we got VC funding, there's a 50% or greater probability we'll kill you, which is good fun, by the way. The ego boost is fantastic. They don't like to talk about that. But the other thing is, we also have to understand, in America, it's not venture capital, it's not angels, it's not equity. That's not what built the country. It's not the backbone of the country. We forget that. We're so caught up in this whole thing. The fact is, 99.9% of companies in the United States have less than 500 employees. Cisco and IBM are aberrations at the end of the day when it comes to America. I always like to start there because of context, because what we have from a commercialization standpoint is this dichotomy of fast growth, and small company, right? So you have fast growth, bands of angels, I throw that in there with VCs, biotech, chips, software, websites, all these huge, huge markets, and then we have this whole thing here, and I kind of threw in something here called a lifestyle company, because that's what VCs talk about. Everything else. Did you ever hear the term lifestyle? It's a lifestyle company, but you got to make this face. It's a lifestyle company. Something smells bad. It's a lifestyle company. It's the VC thing. So, but the fact is, this is supposed to be big money, and that's supposed to be small money. I object. My point of view. You're asking me to come and speak? This is my point of view. But this is perpetuated constantly. The media loves to perpetuate it. I remember a few years ago, front page, Wall Street Journal, some guy who sets up the flowers at Google as a multimillionaire because he took some equity way back in the day. He hit the lottery. That's not what you should be putting on the front page. It's the lottery. But the media likes to perpetuate it. Certainly equity investors do. Professors do. Oh my God, the professors are as bad as everybody else. And then we have textbooks. All they are about in financials are equity, equity, equity. There are a couple of things about non-equity, but they're poorly written and not very popular. Certainly business plan competitions, the bane of our existence as far as I'm concerned, and we all wish we were back in the dot-com bubble. All the VCs do. Oh my God, was that a wonderful day. So this idea of, however, what we're missing, did you ever see the movie Madagascar? I do. I have 2 daughters, so I've only seen it 50 to 70 times. And you have the wild. Well, everything I've talked about is missing the market. The market is missing. Right? That's what's missing from everything I've talked about. What about, as I like to call them, the CVACs, right? Customers, vendors, acquirers, and competitors. Think about it this way. What can the CVACs do for you, and what can a VC do for you? She can do one thing. That's it, write a check, and then beat on you mercilessly at every board meeting that you haven't hit your milestones, versus doing business with the market, AKA the wild. Okay. That's my introduction. So why do I start there? I start there because the idea of the success factors and what is everybody missing? So by the way, I asked this question, nobody says people. So good for you. Because it's one of 2 things I like to talk about. And I'm going to be real clear, however, here about people. I'm a businessman. I'm not a scientist. My last company was cancer diagnostics. Don't tell anybody. I don't really know the difference between protein and DNA. Really. I mean, I get it. We're made of protein. DNA comes from our parents, but that's about it. I'm in the materials business right now. I don't really know what a polymer is. All I know is I studied Latin when I was younger, so there's a lot of something going on. That's about it. My job is to make money. My job is to make money. I don't have to know what a polymer is. Not my job. It's the job of my scientific founders, and even better, the job of my people. So this idea of people, I want to be real clear, and I like your word expertise, because there are 3 parties involved in this whole commercialization thing, and nobody talks about the third, but the first 2 are the business people and the scientists. In fact, I don't see anybody else, but I have entire lectures on how to work with founding scientists. I've never seen anybody say, how do you work with these people? They think they've got something and they should be king because they invented it. Queen. Okay? Doesn't really matter. The point is, they're not. They're just the scientific founders, but they have a crucial role. And then similarly, I like to teach, what's the role of the scientific founder? So understanding one's role in terms of, I'm going to change the word expertise over to role. So that's Those are two parties, if you will, the business parties and the scientific people, because it takes two at the end of the day. Most scientific founders who decide to be business people don't succeed at it, and that's a euphemism for okay, fail. So the fact is, you need the two parts of the brain there, present. The third party, however, is the licensing office. Now, I don't know about up in New Hampshire, but in Kendall Square, conventional wisdom is they're awful people, they're reticent, and they're difficult. So go in with guns a-blazing, and I say, I don't buy that for a second. I object. Your licensing officer is a member of your team. Your licensing office is a financier, a de facto financier. And if you don't view them as a member of your team and the financier, shame on you. You're the one missing out. You go in with guns a-blazing, these are terrible people, you're the one missing out. So when it comes to the people part, I want to make that distinction. Now, part of the reason for this whole thing is success factor. So you've got the people, but the second one is objective. So when I teach entrepreneurial finance, when I teach technology commercialization, the first question I ask is, what's your objective? So when I was in venture capital, and by the way, VCs love to say, we look at 1,000 deals and invest in one. Have you heard that one? The fact is, 950 of them should never have walked in their door because they weren't venturable in the first place. There's some researcher who said, here, write me a check. They shouldn't have walked in the door. They're not venturable. It's not venturable. It's a cool technology. Could change the world, but it's not venturable. It doesn't fit the venture model. So I sat and I watched all of this happen. And I started to ask the researchers who came in, who wanted to commercialize their stuff, what's your objective here? I just want to get this out there. I just want to see this out there. And I said, then what are you doing here? Because that's not my objective. I don't care if this ever sees the light of day. Do you understand that? I don't care if one patient is helped. I don't care if we help the healthcare system. I don't care if we help doctors. I need to buy low and sell high. That's my job. So if you want to get this out there, get out of here and go get it out there. It's not a shared objective. What I need you to say is, I need to make $1 billion. I am as greedy as you are, and I want to make $1 billion out of this innovation. Now we have a shared objective. Maybe some of you have made the mistake of getting married in life, and if you have, you better have a shared objective. And I refer to this as a marriage. At the end of the day, if you don't have, one person wants kids and the other one doesn't, you got a problem. If one person just wants to get this out there and the other one wants to make $1 billion, you got a problem. So the component and the success factor after all this yelling at you, one of my favorite things to do, I never yell at my children, so I like to come here and yell at you guys, is objective. What's your objective? That's a success factor that's missing. And unless you're honest with yourself, I just want to enjoy what it means to run a company. I want to enjoy what it means to get a technology out there. These are reasonable objectives. Absolutely. They're yours. Own them. But don't go after venture capital or equity investing because they have a timeline, clock's ticking. They need to sell. So, very important for commercialization. That's one of the biggest lessons if I hear nothing else today, shared objectives. All right, so Felsuma, a little bit about Felsuma. So I asked Al Crosby about his, starting the company. So I created, that's Scientific Founders on the left, CEO on the right. And so I asked Al, all right, I'm going to go talk to the nice people up at University of New Hampshire. Tell me what I should tell them about when you wanted to start all of this. So they had interest from hundreds of companies, investors, and funds. They were trying to decide whether they should start up or license, and this is why they chose a startup, because they looked at the technology and they thought there was more value and it was a platform, and that was a better way to exploit its value. They did try one partner. Here we have the marriage. When I teach, all of my analogies are parenthood, marriage, and dating, because everybody understands those, and that's pretty much describes all of business as far as I can tell. This is the marriage part. Dating, actually, right now. But they did get married once, but they didn't like it. And I got to give him full marks for ending the relationship. Not easy to do. Not easy to do. Most professors wouldn't have what it takes because, first of all, the wherewithal, it's not your expertise. It's not how you're trained. But he did. They did, he and Duncan. And then we got together and we dated for 6 months. We dated for 6 months. There's some heavy negotiation in that, roles and responsibilities. Absolutely. On my side, I saw my last company. I did not want to do a raw startup. I absolutely did not. My objective, there we go, my objective was to run a company. I had no objective in selling out immediately. I wasn't looking to flip something. So I had 2 risks that were unwanted risks when I was looking for a new company, and if I was going to do a raw startup. There were 2 risks I needed. When I was in venture capital, sometimes we never got beyond technology risk. Remember, there's technology risk, there's product risk, there's manufacturing risk, there's market risk, there's sales risk, there's all kinds of risks, right? Whole value chain of risk. But for me, I didn't want technology risk and I didn't want market risk. Market risk meaning I got to go start cold calling people. Have you heard about, can I show you this? There were already hundreds of people interested. So the day we started, I had companies who were ready to come and visit, which they did do. The other thing I needed was a vision. I look at a lot of technologies and I said, I need something where I see it and I say, okay, I can envision where this is going. So that was important for me as part of my objective. For me, I've worked with many scientific founders. Very, very difficult. It's very difficult. It's very difficult for them and me. It's a difficult relationship. This is no fault of anybody's. It is. That's why the shared objective is a great place to start. Marriage is tough. Nice to have some shared objectives. So I was looking for a particular type of scientific founder. I didn't care how cool the technology was. I wanted to find the right people to do this with. And Al and Duncan are unbelievable. I cannot tell you how delighted I am to work with them. So that's a very important part, again, in terms of this whole idea of what are they looking for, how did they behave, what was I looking for, what was unwanted and wanted by me. I asked Al, how'd you feel about somebody else taking your baby? How do you feel about somebody, running with this thing, making decisions and not asking you, which I did not do and I don't do. And he said, I never really saw it like that. Part of the reason I love Al. He's as smart as they come. He's like in the world, record of inventors, the world-class record, whatever that is, So he's really sharp. But I love the fact that this was his answer to my question on, for you. How did he feel about the fact that I've taken this now and made lots of decisions without him about his technology, he and Duncan? So I wanted to share with you Al's, because I know we have professors in the room. And so Al couldn't be here. And I promised Chelsea that I would ask Al and chat with him in advance as to what he had to say. All right, well, let's continue. So now, Felsuma. So technology, there's Al, there's Duncan. Al's a polymer scientist, gecko biologist. They asked the question, what is it about a gecko that allows it to be the largest animal on the planet that climbs up a wall? What is it inherent in the anatomy of this animal? They looked beyond the hairs. Everybody else in the world likes to look at the hairs on the bottom of a gecko's foot. Why? Because we humans, we look at what we can see. I can see hairs. Must be the hairs. Got to be the hairs. Let's replicate the hairs. And they asked the larger question. What must be inherent in the properties of a gecko? So these are some of the descriptions, and these also by definition describe Geckskin that they had to replicate. So they looked at the anatomy of the animal, and then there's a basic mathematical equation. One of the things I love about this technology is all derived from mathematics. And although I'm a math undergrad, I'm the worst possible mathematician you've ever met, but that does appeal to me. I get it. I remember the vision part. I understood that equation as soon as they explained it to me. And that is where we arrive at this notion of a mechanical adhesive. Combination of anatomy and mathematics gives us the mechanics. So that's for the technology. We talked to dozens and dozens of industries for a whole year. I spent an entire year doing due diligence. As I like to say, much to my wife's dismay, I spent an entire year just talking to customers. What's the need? What's the pain? What's the need? What's the pain? What's the value proposition? One of the things I'll also tell you in a moment, but we talked to every industry you can imagine, right? Truly. What did we learn? The value proposition. The value proposition it's a $30 billion industry of nails, screws, glues, tapes. Believe it or not, But believe it or not, that's state of the art. State of the art is still nails, glues, tapes, etc., Velcro. A command strip by 3M in wall mounting, which we will of course surpass quickly because they can't do that twice. That's the state of the art in wall mounting. But that's it. Otherwise, you're dealing with stuff. But the real value proposition is preparation and cleanup. Damage. Damage is the value proposition. It's not that a nail doesn't work. It's not that Velcro doesn't work. They don't fail. They work beautifully. It's the damage they cause. Even Velcro causes damage to other articles of clothing. Difficult to clean up. Loud. Those are the complaints. So, but I had to go out and spend a year learning this is a huge, huge market. Okay, it wasn't the size of the market in and of itself that attracted me, but it was realizing what the value proposition is. So, huge markets, okay, fine. I figured Chelsea asked me to say, you know, the diversity of where the technology can go, so I wanted to spend a couple of slides just giving you a sense of where we're going with all this. Sealants, mounting devices, apparel closures, packaging closures, on and on and on. These are the way we describe the various capabilities. I call them performance parameters of Geckskin. So a customer will tell us, well, these are the performance parameters, and then we think about what's the right polymer, what's the right carrier. That's made of foam and film. And then we use the Geckskin principles, as I like to describe them, to come up with products. So there we have closure, wall mounting device, another two-dimensional wall mounting device, and we've got a whole portfolio of devices, products for multiple industries serving multiple needs that we're building. These will have applications all over the place. So that's the idea of Geckskin. That's the end of your technology lesson. But I knew this. I didn't want to do a technology push. I didn't want to. I asked all my friends, what do you think I should do with this? And they said, I know. Put it on the back of a tablet and sell it. Everybody wants to put that up on the wall. Guess what? I've probably talked with over, at this point, 700, 800, 900 people in the last 5 years. One asked me to put a tablet on the wall. One. Sony. That's it. Nobody has asked me to put a tablet on the wall. That's a technology push. I wanted to do a market pull. So I wanted somebody to tell me what is the value proposition in your respective industry. So our model is that the customer identifies the pain, and then we work with the customer to build the device to embed in their product, and then I manufacture it and ship it to them. Okay? That's the idea. It's a pull. So strategically, we're working with large corporations. Now, there's a problem with that, which is that it requires a lot of money to make that work, hence our B2C or consumer. So that's a consumer product that'll go, ooh, commercial here. Big Kickstarter in June. Okay? Please, go to Facebook/Geckskin. Oh, kids don't say / anymore. /Geckskin. And please sign up. I beg of you. You need a successful Kickstarter. And we have a website, buygeckskin.com. But the B2C is just a small initiative. It's tactical. Strategically, the goal is to work with large corporations worldwide. That's really the goal. I don't need to make a big company. I'm a technology and product development company. Strategically, I'm a technology and product development company. So, actually, let's not go here yet. All right, I hate slides. So, I wanted to just show you this. Now, when I teach technology commercialization, I ask my students 3 questions that you have to figure out very, very quickly. Who cares? Because nobody cares about your technology. So who cares? The market. You have to identify it, and you have to quantify it. How many of them are there? Is there one person who wants it, or are there a million people who want it? And the third question that they have to answer very quickly is, how to reach that market. How are you going to go from where you're standing to those people, if there are a million of them? Are they all over the place? Or are they standing over in Durham, New Hampshire? Where are they? Who are they? And how can you reach them? Can you reach them? Because if you can't, walk away. But with this as a very simple backbone, this is an entire course that I have taught. All about technology commercial, and it's just answering those 3 questions over the course of the semester. So with that as a backbone, I also know, having lost money as a VC in a materials deal, then I know some things not to do. So I would say a huge part of what I've done at Felsuma is a result of my last company, HistoRx, cancer diagnostics company, and that previous deal that we spun out, coincidentally spun out of UMass Lowell, but it was also a materials deal. So what I know is that in terms of what to look out for, lessons learned. Now, please understand, what I'm about to tell you is this is what I've learned about materials deals. Now, these will transcend just materials, but the reason I say it this way to you is in the diagnostics business, the lessons learned there are different because the market is different and how people think within that market is different. So part of your challenge is not to say, generally, these are the walls you're going to run into. You've got to learn what are the success factors, what are the impediments, market by market. There's a reason why VCs aren't in publishing books. Very slow market. Right? So there's some markets that buy quickly. Consumer products, consumer electronics. People buy every year, every 2 years. They move quickly. So the idea here of what is an attractive market, you have to figure out for yourself. But I do know this, time to market is longer than one expects in materials. I've been at this for 5 years. I expected it to be 2.5. I was wrong. It's taken 5 years. Adoption. In materials, nobody wants to adopt a new material. Nobody wants to. Consumer electronics, absolutely. Happy to adopt. Give me that. Something new, I don't care what it is. Can break after 2 days, I want it. Not materials. Lab to manufacture. So a big fault of many materials deals is they've got the coolest thing in a laboratory, they have no idea how to scale it up. And they keep showing this cool thing in a laboratory, but they actually don't know how to make it, don't know how to make 1 million of them. You got to know how to make 1 million of them, not one. Now this one does transcend. Market development is expensive. It's really expensive to develop a market. So you've got to figure out how you don't have to spend that money unless you really want to raise a lot of money. Part of the reason I want to do this market pull with corporations is I didn't want to do the market development. Even my little B2C business, if it only makes a few $1 million, I'm delighted. That's fine. It'll have served its purpose, which is cash. And then, of course, one thing I referred to, which is technology push. This one also transcends. Don't do technology push. Unless you're really sure of yourself, you know how to do it, you have a veteran on the team, and you know how to market it, because that's pure marketing. You need this, you need this. I'm telling you, you need this, you need this. That's technology push, right? Fear factor. Telling people they're idiots if they don't do it. Tell them they're going to die young if they don't do it. That's all technology push in some form or another. So these are some of the most important factors that I've learned about over the last, HistoRx and that other materials company that I wanted to avoid. And you can see that in the way I've described the way I've set this up. Is I didn't want to worry about adoption. I just wanted to worry about doing a deal with a few corporations. You do a deal with a couple of corporations on some really, I've had every bra company in the world contact me. Eventually, I'll be in the bra business. One way or the other. So, who knew? I asked the scientific founders, do you guys ever contemplate bras? They said, nope, never occurred to us. But that's the whole point. The whole point is I didn't want to come up with that. I wouldn't have. Nobody would have. That they want to replace the hook and eye. All right. So I leave these with you. Another one. I will also tell you from a lesson learned. Ooh, yep. Advisor. I made the mistake in my last company. So in this, I didn't have the right advisors from the very, very beginning, which in hindsight, I can't believe. I truly can't believe it. In this company, we founded the company in April of 13. By May, I had Jerry, 40 years in the adhesives business, blew my mind just by taking him out to lunch. I said, I have to have this man. And he is just the most delightful thing on the planet. But the beauty is when a customer comes to visit and they realize, okay, Rana seems okay. Can we talk to Jerry? And I say, yeah, please talk to Jerry. He knows what a polymer is, really. So that's very, very important. He's not the scientific founder and he's not me. He knows what he's talking about. He has credibility in the eyes of the customer. So another thing in terms of addressing this one. I located in a manufacturing facility. I live in Somerville, Massachusetts, but the lab is embedded in a manufacturing facility in Nashua within a company called Worthen Industries. Worthen is a coating company, 5 facilities around the United States. Sizable company. They're an investor, they're a collaborator. That's where our laboratory is. We have a bench within their facility. So that was crucial when a large company says, okay, this is fine and dandy, but can you make 10 million of these? And I say, yeah, baby. Across that wall, we can make 10 million. You want 100 million? And they say, cool, done. They get it. I understand how to ramp this up. There are no VCs in this company. There are no VCs in this company by design. Maybe one day, but today, this is going to take time. I'm already into this for 5 years. Now, I knew it would take a while. Didn't know it would take this long. I'm so glad there are no VCs because they would have shut me down. They would have shut me down by now. I'm at least 2 years delayed. While I'm dramatically unhappy about that, I'm very happy. I have some angel investors. Are they impatient? Yes. Are they unhappy? Yes. Are they going to shut me down? No. Big decision. Actually not. I'm making it sound like it was. It took me about 5 seconds. I don't want VCs in this deal. It's a materials deal. It will take a long time. But also remember my objective. I want to build a company. A VC doesn't care if you build a company or not. They didn't have a shared objective. So that's the other reason they're not involved. So, all right. So what I did was, this is an old slide. It's not a great slide, but it gives you a sense of so what's your company look like. So I'm me. I've got the 2 scientific founders. I'm big advocate for governance. As a result of my venture capital days, if there's one thing that VCs do very well for companies is bring structure, which is very important because many people like me, in the absence of understanding that structure, wouldn't have known how to have very, very rigorous governance, which is so important. When running a startup company. People think it isn't. They think they don't want a board of directors, don't need a board of directors. I have to be fired when it's time for me to be fired. Maybe some of you, in addition to making the mistake of getting married, you may have had children. So at that point, we all know as parents, maybe you're really good with infant. Maybe you're good with a toddler. Maybe you're not as good as with a teenager. Maybe you're great with an adult child. You can't expect us as parents to be wonderful at every stage of a child's development. You can't expect any given senior manager to be excellent and wonderful at any given stage of a company. Hence my, marriage, dating, and parenthood analogy. So there has to be a board of directors, because when I start to do a poor job, any day now, they have to say, you know what, thank you. We have counselors, both for the IP for the university and for Felsuma. And then I have Jerry. I mentioned Jerry to you. He's the de facto head of development and manufacturing. I have 2 companies I do manufacturing with, a design firm I do design with. I have John, who's on the materials side in the laboratory, and I outsource the marketing. So this is a virtual team. It's very much a virtual team. But I have all the expertise so that when a customer comes to visit, I say, yeah, I have all the components of what you need from Felsuma to do business with all the people on your side. I have marketing, I have design, I have materials, I have manufacturing. And they say, oh, okay. So while they may be worried about other risks, I'm trying to mitigate as many risks as I can, because the technology in and of itself, being so new, is already the biggest risk that I face with large corporate customers. All right. So, where do I come out on all this? One, which I haven't really mentioned, but these are some parting thoughts. Most, if not all, technologies are taken out of the laboratory too early. HistoRx, we took that out too early. We underestimated, it was a software as an algorithm, and the founding CEO looked at it and said, oh, okay, we have to sort of, take the glitches out of the algorithm. But in fact, we had to turn it into a very user-friendly software. That took a long time, much longer, and a lot more money and people than we expected. Same with Felsuma. I've already told you, this has taken longer than I expected for multiple reasons. So I can go back to pointing out what we could have done, should have done. There's a question there, it's not an easy, this is an overarching statement, hopefully to scare you, or at least to put a caution sign in front of you. I'm not telling you not to take it out. Because if the university, or by staying into the university, you can develop it no further for whatever reason, university policies, expertise within the laboratory, and it's time to take it out, so be it. It's time to take it out. So I'm not telling you don't, I'm telling you be cautious. Incubate it as far as you can within the auspices of the university. Because once you take it out, that clock starts ticking. And that's an expensive clock. So, corollary to that, I suppose, find the identify, before you take this out, identify the crucial milestones that you have to achieve. Now, they can be operational, they can be market-driven. I always come back to risk. People are very enamored of revenue. Big market, great product, lots of money. I say, okay, maybe. Risk. Nobody likes to talk about risk. It's not sexy to talk about risk reduction. But that's far more, because the money will come. If you have what you think you have, if you have what your customers have told you have, the money will come, the business will come. Your job is to reduce risk first. My opinion, but I'm the one talking. So you've done your homework, there is a need, there is a customer, there is a market. Concentrate on risk. Concentrate on what are the milestones. Now, it can be, like I mentioned in the last company, making that algorithm into a user-friendly software. That was the market was there. It was waiting. But we had to hit that milestone. In that company, regulatory risk. There were certain companies that simply were not going to do business with us until we filed with the FDA. Now, that's not something I'm going to do while still sitting in the university, do you understand? But it was a really important milestone for me to understand, and I understood it far too late to really capitalize on it and understand how to harness that. Market risk. Does the market know about this? Are you going to spend millions of dollars telling everybody about this thing? I've referred to that with Felsuma. Is there a performance in the product? An ingredient of the product? Is there some problem you have to solve inherent in the productization or the manufacturing? Can you do that within the walls of the university? Maybe the university will even help. Depends on the university. Different universities have different policies about how far they're willing to help you incubate within it. I don't know anything about yours, so I can't speak to it. But this is really important because your blood pressure goes up the day you actually have a company. Okay? So to the extent that you can delay that increase in your blood pressure, the pressure's on, the clock is ticking. This is one of the most important things. It's just, I'm going to make this as a blanket observation. We get so excited, we want to spin it out. Most of us do it far too early. So again, following from that, when you're doing due diligence, ask the operational And market questions in your due diligence. I told you I spent an entire year doing due diligence. Most of it was that. This is called a liner. So I peeled the liner off of the device. All of our products come with liners to protect them. You know, they come on during the manufacturing process. It didn't occur to me that I could spend between a year and 2 years finding the right liner. That just didn't show up in my due diligence. Who'd have thunk? A liner. Okay, that's what I mean. I mean, that's next time there'll be no, I'll be dead. I'm in my 50s. Forget it. I'm not doing this again. But the fact is, you guys might. We're all so enamored of this, right? This is the upside. What's the need? What's the pain? I didn't spend enough time here. Certainly, that's an S. One of the most important tools, tasks, data are comparables. Anybody not know what a comparable is? So whereas the word compare is a verb, you and I look exactly alike, so when people compare us, they say, oh yeah, Ronnie, you look like Jeff. That's a verb. A comparable is a noun, right? So the idea of what are the companies either currently or maybe dead to which you should be comparing your envisioned entity. Study them. Study them hard. Learn about what they did right, what they've done wrong. Why did they die? What assumptions did they make? We spend far too little time. I did a lot of good work here. Two of the most important comparables for me are W. L. Gore and Velcro, for example, and many others, but those are two that you'll understand. So, you know, immediately they make sense to you. But there are other things, because different parts of my company have comparable facets to other companies. And to your point, I cannot say it enough. People, people, people. Because I remember telling my sister's name is Arlen. Arlen, in this world that I live in startup, entrepreneurial world, call it what you will, it's personal. And she said, you mean it's all based on relationships? And I said, no, it's personal. It's emotional. It is emotional. It's not a job, it's not even a career, it becomes your life. You have a vested interest in this emotionally. And to say it otherwise is denying the reality of what you're jumping into. Therefore, find the right people to do business with. This isn't just anything if you're doing this, I believe, wholeheartedly. So those are my last talking points that I wanted to leave you with. I think I'm all set, Chelsea.
We have some time for questions.
Okay. Sir.
2 years behind. Do you know what your milestones are to get ahead? And do you know what you went wrong to not make the same mistakes?
First question was, I can't catch up. I can't get ahead. Move forward, if that's what you mean, yes. So at this point, that product is joined by 2 other products, and we'll do a Kickstarter. Fact is, we have at this point a whole portfolio of products that we're ready to launch. It's very simple at this point. Now we know how to make them. We have the performance, they work, and we know where to manufacture. Everything is manufactured in New England. And now I just have to start selling. It's just time to start selling. So now I have to now turn into a marketing and sales company. I finished the development. I have finished the manufacturing risk, all done. Now it's the market and sales. So that's what I have to do at this point. So that's the moving forward part. I just have to start making money. I have to start selling them. Now, is that trivial? No, because there are many avenues to do that and many tactics, many ways. How do you sell it? Who's our target market, et cetera. So I don't want to trivialize that, but obviously we think we know the answers to those questions at this point. So that's the moving forward. Now the mistakes part. So There's kind of two parts to the answer to that question. One of the mistakes I alluded to, which was I didn't ask this question of, could it take 2 years to find a liner? Well, I have it now. Now, if I go into a new recipe, because I have different products and different recipes, I know to plan. If I'm going to need a new liner, I'm not going to demand anything of a liner anytime soon. I'll just take a deep breath, and hopefully I'm making money from these while we develop that new recipe and product. So yes, in that sense, I know to realize the timeline could be longer than I thought. The other part, what'd you say, a lesson learned? Yeah, so the other one was, I also waited too long to introduce the first products. I should have brought whatever the hell I had ready 2 years ago, at that time. I should have just done it. But the fact is, I didn't for a couple of reasons. And first of all, I'm the CEO, so let's be very, very clear. The fault is entirely mine. Any CEO says, yeah, but this guy this and this guy that, no, I don't buy that. But the fact is, I listen to the opinions of others, and it's not as if I could say, I was thinking I should do this. I'm not going to declare after the fact like I was right. That's not fair either. But the fact is, I listen to the people around me, not just on my team, but elsewhere. And the other thing is, gravity is relentless. Like, it just does not give you a break in my business. And between ripping up people's drywall paint and things falling down, I just didn't have the confidence to take flawed products to market. But I would now in retrospect. And I may qualify them and I may package them differently. But that's a mistake that I'll point to in hindsight that I won't repeat.
That's difficult to say when you think about your tech too early, right? You're
Yes.
stretching both sides
Yes.
on which way to go.
Yes, it is difficult. And you know, I can say this to you now, sometimes I sleep very little now. I used to sleep more in life. And I wonder, am I really still second guessing myself? You know, what do we say, Monday morning quarterbacking and all that? Sure, but I'm answering your question.
I love the fact that you realize you can't never catch up. Right? It's an obvious thing, but it's not obvious. The other thing that seems interesting to me is that I think the luck portion that people are talking about and your observation about the things that you never would have assumed would take you 2 years to find the material back. And there's always going to be those things that come up you're never going to be able to predict. You may think about that now, but look at something else next time. It screws you up.
Yes.
And that's part of the luck. You know, do you hit those landmines? How do you react to those landmines? Do you have the right expertise to overcome them short? Or you're hitting against the wall for way too long before you find that
Sure.
help you. And I think some of that's just the fog of war. You're never going to know.
Yes, I mean, I anticipate that once these hit the market, we have no idea what's really going to happen. Really. How are people going to use them? We know that customers are going to do, I already know. Nobody reads the directions. And they're going to do exactly what they're not supposed to do. I already know that.
Nobody reads the Ulysses, so you can put anything you want.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So it sticks to a whole bunch of different surfaces. So why was the piece of plastic difficult if you could have used any piece of plastic?
That's so funny. My wife asked me that just the other day because the fact is you can only use one side of this. And she said, well, that doesn't make any sense. It sticks to everything, right? So it's a wonderful question. And the answer actually is chemistry. And so that's the simple answer to your question is this is treated to behave a certain way during the manufacturing process. So it's not just something that we put on after the fact. It's something that has to go through the coating in manufacturing. So it has to perform double duty, actually.
So you basically are pouring the skin onto that and then tacking on the hook or whatever.
Sure, that's correct. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about your marketing plans now that you're turning to that? You said at the very beginning you have all these different industries who are quite interested. So there are choices there and potential deals that could block out other deals and things like
Yeah, that part's fun. I enjoy that. It's very simple. Think of it tactically as usually using primarily social media at this point to go to market for our website. As simple as that. So it's Facebook, Twitter, what have you.
But after your customer play, I'm interested in the B2B play.
Mm-hmm. So I've spent the last 4 years talking to companies. I have a pipeline of companies to call upon at this point. So that's waiting for me. That's waiting for me to happen in so many different industries. I'm not saying they're standing around waiting for me, and given one of them will say, not now, I'm busy, which is fine. I have so many others in so many other industries that once I'm ready to start calling them, I have their name, I have their number, I understand the value proposition. So I understand, even if I wanted to start building prototypes to woo them further, I even know what is it that I have to demonstrate to make people want to do business. It's risk. Their reticence is entirely a function of risk. So I don't need a marketing department as such. Maybe I'll hire another key account manager, maybe, one day, but...
Yeah, but there's some decision tree, those are big decisions, it's an enviable position that you're in, but still, different industries require different applications, some might take longer, some aren't ready. I mean, so I'm picking up, those are some of your...
Yes, but the fact is those shake out for themselves for the most part. Those decisions are usually ones that I don't have to make. They're often made for me. You're correct. I'm not for one second saying otherwise, except to say, I'll say it more simply. You make 10 telephone calls, 5 of them aren't going to call you back, or another 3 are busy, and 2 will say, well, maybe, and then you begin the conversation. You make another 10 telephone calls. So time and destiny will make a lot of those decisions for me. And yes, I have already experienced competing companies interested in the same thing. I have experienced that even in my short lifetime in Felsuma. And so that is a very real consequence. And you make the decision, based on the information you have. A lot of it comes down to who do you want to do business with.
I think one of the challenges with tech-based startups is going out of the lab and finding a space where you can continue R&D with limited resources, and then to make that leap to be able to do small batch or scale up your manufacturing. And so I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that, either the current experience or other experiences that you've had.
Sure. So of course in venture capital I watched our portfolio companies do that multiple different ways in different industries. Keep in mind, when I was in venture capital, so that was by definition under the auspices and the expectations of venture capital. As fast as you can, as big as you can, right? That's the whole point of venture capital. For this company, I didn't want to or have to or need to, but mostly it's not the way this company should have grown. Delay notwithstanding, certain problems had to be solved and you couldn't rush them. So this has a huge amount of bearing on how one looks for that space outside of a university. It comes also back to objective, therefore. If you're VC funded, then you have a mandate and the clock is ticking. So you have to go find space, you have to hire a lot of people, and you have to build quickly. That's what you have to do. I didn't have that mandate. And furthermore, I wanted risk reduction. So I wanted to locate within a manufacturing facility to learn how to manufacture this stuff. That was more important. That risk weighed heavily on me at this point. So, okay, so coming back to your question, what have I experienced? What wisdom can I offer? The first one, I'll always come back to, what's your objective? Right? Because keep in mind this other thing, and I always like to juxtapose the VC, non-VC thing, as you can tell. By the way, I may say, as I do about venture capitalists, but when venture capital works and it's a good fit, it is exquisite. It is absolutely exquisite. It's a wonderful business model if it's the right deal for that business model. What I object to is that people go there first without even having given it another thought about the wild and the market. Okay, so in terms of space, start with your objective. Do you want to grow fast? Do you have to grow fast? How many people do you want to hire? What are you trying to do here? What are you trying to accomplish? It was important for me to learn and reduce risk first. The fact is also, you can get quite creative. So you can go get brand new space. Even, you know what I found? Took me an hour. I found shared lab space with another startup. I found shared lab space that a mature company just had a bench that they said we're not using. So once you start calling around, you find, and just be creative a little bit. Economic development offices for states are wonderful resources. They know so many people. And they have every reason to entice you to go over to Massachusetts, to go down to Connecticut, right? And say, look, we know a few companies right now, they've got extra space. They just either fired some people or they just bought new space and they have extra space. They know so much of what's going on. Chamber of Commerce, economic development people. Always call them. They're always usually really nice people and they're incentivized to do so. I mean, not by bonus and salary, but it's what their job is, right? So I did that and that's how I found it. That's what I say, it took an hour to really find additional space of all different varying stages of readiness, space, maturity, etc.
What's your relationship with Northern? They do all of your manufacturing?
Nope. My relationship with them is they're an investor and a collaborator and a landlord. One more question, the nice lady says.
So I know you said your objectives were to run this company and build it, but as the CEO and one of the founders, as long as you're making money, do you care whether or not your product changes the market, or if it just is in there? If you're successful with it,
I don't care.
You don't.
I don't care.
As long as
The whole market changing thing, I don't even know what that means. I will change the market because nobody can do that. Nobody can go from that surface to that surface to that surface on the planet. Okay? And now that today will hold a pound or two, tomorrow it'll hold 3, 5, and 10. Nobody can do that. So it will change the market, but that's not why I set up, there's a lot of reasons to do that. But I think that I'd like to change the idea of reusing things, rather than wasting one-time things. The idea of decreasing the amount of damage once I realized how much damage there is and we have to throw away. So there's this whole sustainability part, no question about it. But this whole idea of being able to, the excitement and the creativity of solving problems in multiple industries was very exciting from the very beginning. That personally, and for the team, is very exciting to just solve those problems. And then the secondary problem solving is, I don't know, what are you going to do with that? You're going to figure out new things to do with that device that I haven't thought of, right? And that's going to be exciting too. Is that changes? I didn't set out to do that. That's going to be a byproduct.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.